6:06 here on the great WRKO and now on 93.7 HD2. Good morning, Boston. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868. You can also text us at 680-680. Huge news day, my friends. We are going to be talking new developments on the immigration front about Diablo Patrick, Mini-Me's plan. There are more details. He's released them from yesterday, that he now wants at least several hundred children, supposedly unaccompanied minors, illegal aliens from Central America to come into the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We're going to have that story at the 8 o'clock hour. We now have a final time. All the details are now being fleshed out, but we now have a time for the rally, the Stop the Invasion rally, to say no to Mini-Me's plan to flood our state with illegal immigrants. It's going to take place not this Saturday, next Saturday, July 26th, at the steps of the State House at 11 o'clock. It will begin at 11 o'clock. We're already getting commitments from some major political figures who are saying they're going to show up. The outpouring of support, the interest for the rally, I've never seen anything like this. Please, I'm asking all of you, members of Kuhner Country, I don't care what your political affiliations are, liberal, conservative, centrist, Republican, Democrat, this will affect all of us. I need you to show up. Bring your friends, bring your family members, bring your relatives. Next Saturday, July 26th, 11 o'clock, at the steps of the State House, right across from Boston Common. I will be there. Kuhner Country will be there, and we will be holding a huge rally to say no to Deval's plan to flood this state with illegal immigrants. I'm going to be talking about that at the 8 o'clock hour in greater detail. 7 o'clock hour, the Malaysian Airlines flight that was shot down criminally over Ukraine. I'll have the latest for you on that at 7. But right now, as I speak to you, my friends, there is now a major offensive underway. We knew it was coming for the last couple of days. Israeli troops, Israeli forces had been amassing at the border on the Gaza Strip. And the reason why Israel is now launching a major military offensive. They are now pounding the Gaza Strip from the air, from the sea, from the land. They have now called up about 50, some media reports now even say 60,000 troops are now involved in a massive ground operation. Israeli tanks are rolling into the Gaza Strip. They're backed by bulldozers to dismantle the extensive tunnel system that Hamas has developed to get weapons and supplies and to launch terrorist attacks upon Israel. Is that over the last 10 days, Hamas has rejected ceasefire after ceasefire, and then stunningly, they now attempted through their elaborate network of underground tunnels to launch an attack upon Israeli citizens. It was foiled at the last second by the IDF, in which 13 Hamas terrorists were killed. The Israelis are exasperated. The Israelis have had enough. For months, they have endured thousands of rockets and missiles being launched by Hamas from the Gaza Strip, pounding and hitting targets and attacking Israelis and killing Israelis all across Israel. And the final straw was the slaughter and murder of 3 Israeli teenagers. And so Benjamin Netanyahu has now given the green light to what they are calling Operation Defensive Edge. It is an all-out attack on the Hamas terrorist infrastructure. And so they are targeting the tunnels. They are targeting many of these storage facilities whereby rockets are being stored, missiles are being stored. They are now going to smash Hamas's terrorist infrastructure from the air, from the sea through a naval bombardment, and from the land through a massive ground campaign. what is important to recognize here is that Hamas, and I don't believe it's propaganda, most international experts say on this one, Hamas is not lying. Hamas has been preparing for this invasion or this offensive for a long time. They want to pull Israel in. They want this to go into a long, protracted ground war. They want to bring Israeli forces, Israeli tanks, into the small streets of Gaza, and then wage urban guerrilla warfare and bleed the Israelis in Gaza. Kill one soldier after another, blow up one tank after another, and start sending Israeli body bags back home. And so Hamas is actually welcoming this offensive. They now believe this could be the decisive showdown with Israel. And what is to me shocking in all of this is now, as the Israelis take actions to defend the state of Israel, to defend the citizens of Israel, to protect them from the constant terrorist barrage and missiles and rockets being launched at Israel on a daily, almost hourly basis. Where's the dear leader? Where's Obama? I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. Going back, really since 1948, since the founding of the State of Israel, Israel and the United States have been staunch allies. The United States views Israel rightly as the democratic bulwark, the bulwark of the West in the Middle East. And, for example, Richard Nixon in the 1973 war, when many of the Arab countries sent in their armies in an all-out military attack to finally wipe Israel off the face of the earth. They had invaded Israel. They smashed the Israeli army. In fact, almost half of Israel was occupied. They were on a push to drive the Israelis into the sea. Israel was on its back. Richard Nixon ordered in massive U.S. military planes and supplies, where they were landing on Israeli airstrips. And right there on the Israeli airstrips, tanks were flowing out from these cargo planes. All they were doing was spray painting the Star of David, the flag of Jerusalem, on the tanks, and they were heading straight to the front. And had it not been for Nixon's last-minute intervention, Israel would have been wiped off the face of the earth. Instead of having Israel's back, Obama is telling Netanyahu, hey, slow down, hey, whoa. Both sides need to go to the negotiating table. Both sides are to blame. Both sides need to sit down and talk. Hey, I am the dear leader. Slow down. This guy's unbelievable. Have you noticed? He tells Israel to slow down. He hasn't even told ISIS in Iraq to slow down. He doesn't even tell the Taliban to slow down. But suddenly, it's Israel must slow down. So what is Israel supposed to do? Take it on the chin day after day? Have them continue to launch rockets and missiles? Have them continue to dig these tunnels? Have them continue to infiltrate Israel and get in all these weapons and supplies, guns, surface-to-air missiles, rocket mortars as they're coming in through these tunnels? They're just supposed to stand back and take it and allow innocent Israeli men, women, and children to be killed and slaughtered? I said this to Cooksey yesterday because we were talking about the situation, because he was calling me up saying, hey, Jeff, are you watching this on television? I was doing another radio interview. And he's like, Jeff, it's an all-out war. Have you been watching Fox? I said, well, actually, no. I've been on the phone doing another radio interview with a station in North Carolina. He says, you got to look at Fox. I said, okay. He goes, no, it's an all-out war. Netanyahu is given the green light, and Gaza is being lit up, absolutely lit up. And I mentioned this to Cooksey. I said, look, Cooks, you want to understand the Israeli position? It's very simple. Imagine if a radical Muslim terrorist organization dedicated to the utter destruction of America and to the complete mass murder and slaughter of every American, because that's in the Hamas charter regarding Israel. That's right there in their constitution. The destruction of the Jewish state and the massacre of all Jews. Established a base, a safe haven in Nova Scotia, maybe in Quebec, Ontario, right there on our northern border. And day after day after day, we're launching missiles and rockets into Vermont, into Maine, into Boston, into Rhode Island, even sometimes reaching as far as our capital, Washington. They hit sometimes Jerusalem and even Tel Aviv. Every day, 10, 15, 20, 25 rockets and missiles. And every day you read in the news, this girl killed, this family's home destroyed, this couple killed and murdered on the streets. What do you think the response of the American people would be? You think we'd sit back and say, oh, we got to show some restraint? Oh, we can't engage in a disproportionate response now. No, we have to go to the peace table. We have to negotiate. We have to be compassionate and tolerant and have respect for diversity. No, our response would rightly be within 48 hours. Take them out. Launch an all-out counter-offensive and smash them so they can never threaten the American people and kill one more American again. Wouldn't that be the sensible, patriotic response? So why is it any different for Israel? Why is there always a double standard when it comes to Israel? And my friends, this is my final point, and then I want to open it up to the phone lines and get your take on this. What is going on now, obviously, is about the threat posed by Hamas and Palestinian terrorists to the state of Israel. But there's a larger conflict here that the media is deliberately ignoring. Who has been backing Hamas, supporting them militarily, financially, helping to train them, giving them all kinds of money, weapons, and supplies? Iran. Hamas has become a proxy and ally of Iran, one of their closest allies. And the Iranians have been using Hamas in part of their larger campaign to wipe the Jews off the face of the earth and to continue their existential struggle against the state of Israel. That's why they're trying to attempt to build a nuclear bomb. That's why they've established and supported Hezbollah in Lebanon. And that's why they're backing Hamas. They are trying to encircle the Jewish state for a final military showdown. This is about Iran in the end, even more than Hamas. And what Netanyahu is doing, rightly in my view, is he is now establishing the precedent that the Jewish people will fight for their survival. That the Jews of Israel, unlike the Jews during the Holocaust, are not going to go quietly into the gas ovens. And that if Iran wants to wage a struggle to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, that Israel will fight and Israel will be right. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me ask all of you this double-barreled question. What do you make of the Israeli military offensive? Do you support it or do you oppose it? Secondly, and even maybe more importantly, do you believe that in the end, Israel can survive being encircled by so many enemies? In the end, do you think Israel can ultimately survive in the Middle East, surrounded by peoples and countries that ultimately want to annihilate the Jews? 617-266-6868 is the number. Jeff, you're up next. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff. Not if we don't step in and help. I don't think they can survive, Jeff. Not with, it almost seems behind the scenes we're actually helping for lack of a better term, the Muslims, all these Muslim states. We're helping them. And I want to know, Where's the, Muslim and Sharia law? Where's the national organization of women standing up to this Muslim faith that actually treats women as second-class citizens, and almost it's like dogs are more important than women? And where's the LGBT community, where if you're homosexual in any one of those states, I don't care if you're radical or not, you are punished, maybe even killed if you're a homosexual. Where are these people standing up against this religion? And they say it's a radical Islam that's doing this. Well, is Iran a country? And is the leader of a country considered radical, Jeff? The leader of a country has said it wants Israel wiped off the face of the planet. Now, that's not just a little leader of a little group that's radical, is it? That's an entire country who said that. We can't keep saying that this is radical Islam that's doing this. No, it's entire countries. They are radical Muslims, aren't they, Jeff?
Yes. You're completely right, Jeff. You hit the nail on the head. And look, I'm not trying to sow fear, but I have to be honest with all of you. Iran is a nation of 70 million. Iraq was 27 million. This is 70 million, sitting on one of the largest reserves of oil in the world. And to be honest with you, and I'm not saying this to be politically correct, I'm telling you as an historian, this is Persia. Iranians are not Arabs, they're Persians. They have an ancient civilization, a sophisticated civilization. They have a very high sophisticated culture. In many ways, like the Germans. When everybody said, in Germany, fascism could never triumph. Look, Mozart, Beethoven, this is the land of culture and civilization and music and philosophy.
Right.
Iran is a dangerous threat to Israel.
And Jeff,
go ahead.
Who is this? I forget he's a famous Jewish guy. He goes around speaking at colleges and stuff. And if you can YouTube it, search on YouTube.
Is it Elie Wiesel?
No, Muslim student against Israel or something like that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said a Jewish activist. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he is. He's Jewish, and he goes around and speaks. I forget his name, but this woman who is a member of the Muslim group on campus asked a question of him, and he said that so and so said that he wants all the Jews round up in Israel so he wouldn't have to hunt them down around the globe. And the girl stood up behind the microphone, and he said, "Do you agree or disagree?" She stood there in her garb and said, "Agreed." And all the students gasped, Jeff. But still, nothing is done. This is accepted on college campuses. This is accepted everywhere. It's the PC thing to do, and we are molding our kids to accept all of this radical Muslim religion, aren't we?
Yes, and thank you for that call, Jeff. Look, this is now the new anti-Semitism. The hatred of Israel as a form of the hatred of the Jews. And what I find incredible to all the liberal leftists out there, go to Israel. You want gay rights? Go to Israel. They don't hang homosexuals. They don't stone homosexuals. Feminism, no other country in the Middle East treats women better than Israel. None. Women are treated equally as men, like in here in the United States or in the West. And yet all of these feminists oppose Israel. All of these LGBT activists oppose Israel. So in the end, they're cutting their own throats. You see, today it may be the Jews, but tomorrow it will be you. Laura, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Good morning. Couple of points.
Sure.
One, I totally believe that the Israelis will survive because they are bad mofos. They've been enduring for centuries, thousands of years. And two, the dear leader, pussycat. What is the American, what is he going to do that's going to help them? They can do it without him. He's shooting his own foot off because they are the best allies we could ever have. Intel. Remember the Munich Olympic Games? They hunted those guys down like dogs, and that's what they should do now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. Look, if I was Bibi Netanyahu, I would annihilate all of Hamas's military infrastructure. I would go after their top leaders. I would kill every single one of them. I think they're a gang of criminals and terrorists. I would smash all of their military installations. I would completely dismantle all of those tunnels, and I would teach them, and more importantly, the Iranians and Hezbollah, a lesson they will never forget. If you mess with Israel, you are going to be defeated, and defeated badly. 617-266-6868 is the number. Is that Rena that we have on? Oh, is it Refa? Okay, Refa, thanks for holding. Welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. So first of all, I just wanted to say, as a Jewish person, I'm just so grateful for people like you and conservatives and conservative radio talk hosts across the board who are pro-Israel. Because if you would just listen to the news, regular network, read Time magazine, New York Times, across the board, it is so, all you're going to see is media that is so anti-Israel and pro-Palestinian. For example, you don't see reporting or any condemnation anywhere about the fact that Hamas uses humans, women, children as human shields. Like, you just don't see that reported. What you see is there should be restraint on Israel's side. Also, I read, that there is condemnation that Israel uses, they're kinds of these missiles that don't destroy but send warnings. So they're called like knock on the roof kind of warnings.
Yes.
And there's condemnation as if Israel should not warn them? Or do you see any kind of warnings on the Hamas side? Like, that is a bad thing. But there's no warnings that humans are used as shields. There's no warnings of that or any of the things that Hamas is doing. That's first of all. Secondly, it is laughable when the media reports only one Israeli has been killed, whereas over 200 Palestinians. And so obviously that's so unfair and points to Israel being the brutal side over here, because they're just so upset that more Israelis have been killed. It can't possibly be that Israel might be a stronger military force at this point. And I just wanted to add one last point. You talk about this being a new kind of anti-Semitism. I guess I just want to say, my father's a Holocaust survivor. He went to Israel, his family, in 1949. There's nothing new about this. This is as old as time, and it is...
Hello, Rafa?
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I thought I heard someone say something, but...
No. You just dropped. I said, oh my God, was this the NSA? Is Obama cutting you off?
No. This is just me.
Okay.
So, this goes back as old as time, and I don't know if you're familiar with the Mark Twain essay that basically asks the question, how is it possible that the Jew, it's called The Jew, and it basically asks in a very eloquent way, like all of these other, dynasties and dictatorships have just, disappeared, the Romans, the Greeks, and how is it possible the Jews still exist with all the odds against them? Basically, you ask the question, can Israel survive? Yes, it's true. Israel has an incredible military, incredible intelligence. They have right on their side. But to me, there's no question that there are miracles involved. The fact that they have survived through the 67 war, the 73 war, the 48 war, and all the wars since then, surrounded by these large Arab countries all around them, and they survive. I mean, I know, and you've talked, it seems to me in the past that you're a religious person. I'm a religious person too, and that is all that I can use to explain this. This is miraculous.
Rafa, I gotta tell you, hit the nail, by the way, absolutely on the head, but I gotta tell you this. And what I'm going to tell you now, no truer words have ever been spoken. The reason why Hamas is welcoming this invasion, they just found, the UN just admitted that they found in a UN-run school in Gaza 20 missiles. So they're using schools, they're using mosques, they're using civilian buildings as a place to launch missiles and rockets. And they're using their children as human shields. They want their own children to be slaughtered so they can win the PR campaign and make it seem like, oh, look at the Israeli beast. And the difference, Rafa, is this, and we have to now speak the truth. The Jews are like the Christians. We are part of Western civilization. We value individual human life. That's why we've attained the level of civilized decency that we have. The radical Islamists are willing to sacrifice their own children 5-year-old girls, 4-year-old boys, put them in front of schools, have them get killed to protect missiles and rockets and guns in order to try to galvanize the international community to swing decisively against Israel. I can't think of anything more barbaric than to sacrifice your own kids to win a lousy PR campaign to annihilate an entire people.
And Jeff, how much condemnation do you hear from anybody, the UN, the president, anybody, about that very fact? That not only when Israel warns them, leaflets and texts, I mean, it's so, I can't even imagine texts. They get texts. Get out. Run for your life if you want to survive this. They get phone calls, texts, warnings, and not only do they, not leave, but their leaders are telling them, don't leave, go back, stay. And where's the condemnation of that barbaric method?
Rifa, God bless you. 617-266-6868, 631 on the great WRKO. More with your calls next. Let's take it to Angela Anderson in the newsroom. 640 here on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. 617-266-6868. Israel is now launching a major, massive invasion offensive against the Gaza Strip. They're bombarding the terrorist Palestinian leadership from the air, from the sea, from the land, to protect Israelis from literally thousands of rockets that have been launched against the Israeli people over the last couple years, and especially over the last couple months. They're bringing in bulldozers to dismantle the elaborate network of underground tunnels. It's called Operation Defensive Edge. I stand with Israel. I stand with Benjamin Netanyahu. I stand with democracy. Where do you stand, Boston? 617-266-6868 is the number. Bruce, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Jeff.
Hi, Bruce.
Hey, did you have your breakfast this morning? What'd you have, Cheerios?
How do you know I have Cheerios in the morning?
Because it's a breakfast of...
Bruce, I told you can't swear on the air. I keep telling him this. Please tell me you dumped that, Brittany. Hello, Brittany? Okay, she did. Woo, all right. It was 6:40 in the morning. Bruce, for God's sakes. What are you trying to do? $2,000 fine? You gave Brittany a heart attack. 617-266. Are we trying to bankrupt this here, Bruce? 617-266-6868 is the number. Patrick, you're up next. Thanks for holding, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Patrick.
Hi, you're going to have this rally next week.
Yes.
I wanted to suggest that maybe one way to get these invasions to stop is to hire some of our best accountants, keep track of what it's costing us to handle these people, and then bill Mexico on a weekly basis until they can't pay, and then just take land for money. And maybe we could use that land to restore our production and farming.
It's a pretty funny idea, Patrick. The problem is they're coming in from Honduras, from Guatemala, from El Salvador. If we start doing that, you know how many countries will owe us if we want to have them give us their resources and territory in exchange for all the people they're dumping in our borders? See, I was telling this to Cooks, I swear. He said, Jeff, what do we do today? I said, well, we can do the Malaysian Airlines flight being shot out of the sky by Putin. Basically, the world is out of control because Obama keeps drawing red lines and not enforcing them. Or because Obama won't have Netanyahu's back, Israel has to go it alone, and now there's a big war in the Middle East. Or, so there's that invasion to talk about. Or we can talk about our own invasion. I said, take your pick. That's what weak American leadership invites. That's what you get. Chaos and anarchy all over the world. That's what you get when you get a third-rate constitutional law professor, a no-talent community activist in the White House. 617-266-6868 is the... We're all on our own, including the Israelis. Rena from Israel, you're back. Thanks for holding, Rena, and welcome.
Hi there, Jeff. Couple of things that I just had to call in about. Number one, this business with the plane is just so tragic, and there was an Israeli on the plane. And you know, I was in South Lebanon in 1982. I don't know if I ever told you that, but I saw the caves that the Palestinians had carved into the hills behind the Christian town of Damour. The Palestinians had slaughtered all the people in the town, and yet Israel and the soldiers, when they came into South Lebanon, again trying to clean out a den of vipers who were bombing northern Israel, you know, the world it's just unreal. And I have to tell you two things. The children who were killed on the beach in Gaza were playing next to Hamas Navy headquarters. It was a small shop, but that was what was being used as Hamas Navy headquarters. The children were all from one family, and there were Israeli ships in the sea. What parent in their right mind would let their children play next to a shack that was serving as Hamas Navy headquarters when there's a war going on? But that's not going to make the news either. One more thing. The name of this particular operation is called Tzur Eitan, which, when you take the two first letters of the Hebrew words, in English they would be number 91. I would like to ask all of your readers and listeners and whatever, at some point over the next few days, this one of the Psalms is Psalm 91. If everybody would read it and just ask God to bless all the soldiers. The soldiers who are fighting on behalf of Israel are Jewish, are Christian, there are Muslims, there are Druze, there are Bedouins in the Israeli army. It's not just one group, one person. It's a whole group of people who understand that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. And I thank you so much for reminding everybody of this particular fact.
Rena, before I let you go, what is the mood in Israel right now? I know Hamas has been launching a lot of rockets. Apparently some have hit Tel Aviv. Are Israelis nervous about this? Is there a lot of support for Netanyahu for Operation Defensive Edge? What is the mood and feeling right now in Israel?
Well, you know, I live in the north. I live in a small mystical city of Safed. In English, it's called Tzfat in Hebrew. I'm on a main street, and I live right next to a bus stop, and the bus stop has buses that are going to Jerusalem and to Tel Aviv and to Bnei Brak and to Ashdod, and from there to, Point South, and the buses are going. So that's all I can tell you. We were on the receiving end of the rockets in 2006 when Hezbollah was shelling us from Lebanon. It's almost like, this is just normal procedure. Yeah, it's not, sure we've had more rockets than normal, but over the last, since 2005, which is when Israel left the Gaza Strip and turned it over to the Arabs for them to develop for themselves a wonderful modern country, close to 10,000 rockets have landed in Israel. What can we say? I mean, it's about, I think everybody is happy that Netanyahu is finally doing something.
Oh, so people are saying finally Netanyahu is doing something, correct?
Yeah.
No, Rena, look,
they've tried before.
Rena, I gotta tell you, you gotta call this show more often because I'm telling you, no, you really nailed it. Israel leaves in 2005. The whole Gaza Strip. So now Hamas and the Palestinians, well, first of all, then the Palestinians have a choice. What do you do? Can you build a modern economy, a modern democracy, and start creating a viable Palestinian state? Or do you elect Hamas and say, let's wage jihad and massacre every Jew, Christian, and moderate Muslim in Gaza Strip and in Israel? And they chose Hamas. And it's been 9 years, and they choose missiles and rockets and anti-Semitic propaganda. That's essentially in a nutshell, correct, Rena?
That's essentially in a nutshell. And the tragedy is that the people who didn't want Hamas have been killed by Hamas. And the media doesn't cover that. I did an on-air interview in 1982 when I came back from South Lebanon, because I got all the way to the Beirut airport at the time that the war, it was just ending. But I saw what was going on, and I saw who was really in charge. And I took one of the journalists to task because I knew him, and I knew what he was reporting from Beirut. And I said to him, you never really reported what was going on. He said, Rena, I couldn't. The Palestinians wouldn't let me out of the hotel. The only information I could give was what they gave me every day, including film footage that was from 5 years earlier. But the interesting thing is that the media has told me time and again, we don't do history, Jeff. We only report on what happened today. But why it's happening, we don't bother with. It's not necessary. And I've had emails and I've had requests from people from Canada and from the States. Please explain to me what's going on, because I'm not hearing from anybody what's happening. And it's tragic. I mean, I got an email from a friend who lives here in Israel. His wife's grandfather was a rabbi in Gaza back in the 1800s. There was always a Jewish community in Gaza. There were always Arabs in Gaza. And, without the radicals, everybody got along well. But the minute the radicals come in, and as you say, first it's the Saturday people, then it'll be the Sunday people. Islam was supposed to replace both the Jews and the Christians.
Bingo.
And it hasn't happened. And therefore it means that maybe they're wrong. And so therefore anybody who doesn't agree with their way of thinking has to be killed.
Rena, thank you so much for that call, and stay safe, Rena.
Welcome. Take care, Jeff.
God bless you.
Shabbat shalom to everybody. Bye-bye.
617-266-6868, 650 on the great WRKO. Brittany, let's take it to Rush Limbaugh. 658 here on the great WRKO. 617-266-6868 is the number. Jay, you're up next. Thanks for holding, and welcome.
Jeff, thanks a lot for taking my call.
My pleasure, Jay.
I'll be quick. A couple things. One, if people want to donate to Israel in some way, first is the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces. You can do that. There are organizations you can do that through, number one. Number two, there's a rally tonight at 4 o'clock on the Common held by Christians and Jews United for Israel. 4 o'clock tonight. You can look it up online. And third, your rally next week. I think we need a rally across the country for Israel, not only for Israel, for the United States. Your rally should be proliferated in every major city in the country, and I would ask that you just go to your colleagues around the country and try to get them to coordinate an organized rally around the nation.
Thank you very much for that call, Jay. What is happening this weekend is there are hundreds of demonstrations against this illegal invasion of illegal immigrants. Obama's immigrants, Deval Patrick's illegal immigrants. There's rallies all over the country. Massachusetts is one of the few states not holding a rally this weekend. That's going to change next Saturday. And I need all of you to show up Saturday, July 26th at 11 o'clock at the steps of the State House to tell Deval Patrick, Diablo, Mini-Me, no. Comprende? We don't want illegal immigrants in our communities. 617-266-6868. Let's try to squeeze in one more call. Brittany, who do you want to go to next? Lee, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go ahead, Lee.
Yes, good morning.
Hi.
I want to say that Israel is the only nation in the history of the world created by a sovereign act of God. God, the creator of heaven and earth, entered into a real estate covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The land of Israel would be theirs forever, and that's in Genesis 13. Israel must never be separated from this ancient Bible covenant. And we have to. America turns its back on Israel, and the Jewish people will be the exact day in history, and God Almighty lifts his hand of blessing from America. Don't turn your back on Israel. Stand firm. And beware, America. God is watching.
Thank you for that call, Lee. Very well said. 7 o'clock here on the great WRKO. Coming up next, Malaysian Airlines 17 shot down from the sky in an act of terrorism and air piracy. 298 people dead. Was Putin involved? Is he responsible? That bombshell story next.
News at the top and bottom. Talk in between.
Yes, it is. Thank me very much. Go right ahead, my friend.
This is AM 680 WRKO, Boston.
7:05 here on the great WRKO and now on 93.7 HD2. Welcome back to Hour 2 of the Kuhner Report, 617-266-6868. You can also text us, as always, 680-680. Murder in the skies. This to me is an absolutely gruesome, shocking, despicable story. And on one level, it's human, and on another level, it could have very profound geopolitical consequences. My friends, here is what happened. Yesterday, Malaysian Airlines Flight 17, a Boeing 777, nearly 300 people on board. In fact, to be exact, we now know the number was 298. It was initially thought 295. Now it's 298. Was on its way from Amsterdam in the Netherlands to Kuala Lumpur. It went over Ukrainian airspace. And as you know, in the eastern part of Ukraine, after Crimea has been annexed to Russia, pro-Russian insurgents, pro-Russian separatists, backed by Moscow, armed by Putin's army, by Putin's Russian army, are now fighting essentially a civil war against the Ukrainian government in Kiev. You have essentially pro-Russians in the eastern parts of Ukraine, which has historically always looked towards Moscow. Some of them ethnically Ukrainian, some of them Ukrainians who speak Russian. They are waging an insurgency against the government in Kiev, wanting to essentially break away from eastern Ukraine, and join up with Russia. The situation has been very dangerous and is getting more bloody over the last couple of months. Well, last week, Russian separatists in the eastern part of Ukraine seized a Ukrainian military base that had Buk surface-to-air missiles, Buk, B-U-K. It appears that a surface-to-air missile was fired, which hit the Malaysian Airlines Flight 17 dead on target. It exploded in the sky. The wreckage has now fallen. It is over a 9-mile radius. There are bodies, body parts, and wreckage over a 9-mile area in eastern Ukraine. The question that has now yet to be determined is, was the missile fired from eastern Ukraine, near the Russian border, or was it fired actually within Mother Russia itself? Because the Russian army is right there on the border, basically reinforcing and providing supplies and military equipment to the Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine. It's part of Putin's land grab in Ukraine. On board were essentially civilians. 154 Dutch nationals, all of them now are confirmed dead. 154 Dutch nationals dead. 45 Malaysians dead. 27 Australians dead. 12 Indonesians dead. 9 Britons dead. 4 Germans, 4 Belgians, 3 Filipinos, 1 Canadian, all confirmed dead. The State Department has now said on the flight manifest they believe were 23 Americans. This has not yet been confirmed. So we do not know if Americans, or 23 of them, or any American, was on board that flight. It has now come out by intelligence intercepts as well as messages posted on Twitter that it appears that the pro-Russian separatists are responsible for this. And here's why. On Twitter, pro-Russian separatists had bragged that after acquiring the surface-to-air missiles, that they had shot down a Ukrainian cargo plane yesterday. and they bragged about shooting down a Ukrainian cargo plane. In fact, one of their militia commanders, a Cossack by the name of Igor Strelkov, he's just known as Igor the Terrible among his men, went on Twitter bragging about shooting down what they believed was a Ukrainian plane. So it appears that they accidentally shot down Malaysian Airlines Flight 17, thinking it was a Ukrainian cargo plane as part of their civil war against the government in Kiev and the Ukrainian military. And so they actually not only went on Twitter, but on cell phone. There's video now being shown of them on cell phone videotaping the plane as it's blowing up and falling down to the ground. Igor Strelkov takes to Twitter and boasts, "We warned you not to fly in our sky." He starts boasting about looking at how there's black smoke. There's wreckage coming from this plane. They start laughing, him and two other commanders, as the plane is coming down. It's absolutely repulsive. One of the rebels brags, wow, that was a blast. Quote, according to Igor Strelkov, "The plane was hit. Look at those black spots. These are the parts flying." He starts laughing. "It was a blast. Look, black smoke." Another rebel, possibly referring to the missile system, the missiles, surface-to-air missiles they acquired, is laughing on the cell phone video. We can't see the face, but you can hear the voice, saying, quote, "It was worth bringing this thing, wasn't it?" They put up pictures of themselves smirking in propaganda photos. They were tweeting, boasting how they had thought they had shot down a Ukrainian cargo plane. Within 5 to 6 minutes, word gets out that in fact it wasn't a Ukrainian cargo plane, but a civilian airliner. Malaysian Airlines Flight 17. That wasn't a Ukrainian plane. That was a civilian plane flying over international skies at 33,000 feet. They have just murdered civilians, many of them from countries all over the world. The tweet is then immediately erased, and now the cover-up begins. And so now the separatists are claiming, no, we had nothing to do with this. Now Putin in Moscow and the Kremlin are saying, no, don't look at us, don't look at our people. The Ukrainian government is to blame, not us. We're going to find out more information over the next couple of days. Let me just say this. On board that flight were not just innocent civilians. One was a world-renowned AIDS researcher and AIDS doctor. Another was a Catholic nun. I'm staring at a picture of 3 children. They were on board, Australians. They were on board with their grandfather. A boy, Mo, 12. A girl, 10 years of age. Her name is Evie. And the youngest one, Otis, who's 8. They're dead. Their parents will never see them again. And what was their crime? What was their sin? That they deserved to be blasted out of the sky like dogs, like animals. Because they boarded a plane? Flew at 33,000 feet? On their way to Kuala Lumpur? Eventually to be reunited with their parents? After having a vacation in Europe and seeing the Netherlands and Holland? This is a crime. What the Russian separatists did, backed by the Kremlin, whether the missile was fired from within eastern Ukraine or actually inside the Russian border, inside Russia itself across the border, is to me irrelevant. Who backs the separatists? Putin. Who's been arming the separatists? Putin. Who's been fomenting the civil war in Ukraine? Putin. This is of his making. And he has the blood of these children and all those people on board that plane on his hands. And God help him if there turns out to be Americans on that flight. God help him if he has the blood of 23 Americans. It's been unconfirmed, so I'm not going to say he does. We don't know yet. But if he's responsible, or his people are responsible for the murder and slaughter of Americans, then, my friends, I'm telling you, there should be severe consequences. This was an act of terrorism. Children were killed. Nuns were killed. Old ladies were killed. Old men were killed. And the gall of this man, he then releases a statement, knowing now the growing international condemnation. And he turns around and says, oh, don't look at us. We blame the government of Ukraine. Why do you blame the government of Ukraine, Tsar Putin? Putin the Great? Tell me, why do you blame the Ukraine? Well, because the fighting is occurring on their territory, and they're responsible for the fighting on their territory. Really? Who's fomenting the rebellion? Who annexed Crimea? Who's arming the rebels in Ukraine? You are. The only person that wants violence here is you. This could have been a negotiated settlement in Ukraine a long time ago, but you don't want that because you hungrily want to annex eastern Ukraine. That's been your plan all along, and everybody knows it. In fact, you've admitted it in the Russian media repeatedly. After Crimea, you want eastern Ukraine. We cannot allow this kind of crime, this kind of international piracy, this kind of reckless slaughter of innocent civilians to take place without there being severe consequences. And here is what I believe now it is time for the United States to do. If the dear leader is listening, if he even cares, it is now time to impose real crippling sanctions upon Russia. Really put the screws into the Russian economy. Let Putin and his oligarchs this time really feel it. No more of these dinky sanctions that the administration has been playing with for the last year or so. And moreover, what is to me absolutely despicable and a black mark forever on this regime is that these Ukrainians, faced with an invasion by Russia, faced with an act of war against their country by the Kremlin, have come here on hand and foot begging for basic defensive weapons, and Obama has not given it to them. It is now time that we arm the Ukrainian government to the teeth so that they can reclaim eastern Ukraine, crush these Russian separatists, and teach Putin a lesson. You don't meddle in the internal affairs of your neighbors. You want to play great Tsar? Do it on somebody else's time and in another country. But we in the West will not tolerate this kind of murder, terrorism, and barbarism. My question to you is this, my friends. What do you make of the shooting down of the Malaysian Airlines flight? Do you think Putin was involved? Who do you think shot it down? And what do you think the response of the civilized world should be? 617-266-6868 is the number. 719 on the great WRKO. More with your calls next.
The Russian policy over the years has allowed this to develop, the support for the Ukrainian separatists. And I think it's important for Americans to learn the bigger lesson here. This is not just about separatists in eastern Ukraine. This is about the view of Russia and how it pursues its interest around the world, which we have, let's be honest, facilitated over the last 5.5 years in many respects. I hope what this does, this tragedy, is serve as a wake-up call to those who have only dimly seen what Putin and the Russians are up to.
724 here on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, in the saddle and ready to go. My friends, quick reminder, next Saturday, July 26th, we will be holding a major rally. Stop the illegal invasion of our state by illegal immigrants. due to Deval Patrick's plan, which we're going to get into in the next hour. Please, I need all of you to show up. It's going to be at 11 o'clock at the steps of the State House. Please, I need you to come. Bring your friends, family members, relatives. We need to show up in big force if we're going to win this battle. John McCain, yesterday, after finding out what took place with the shooting down of Malaysian Airlines 17, 298 dead. We don't know if Americans were on board. The State Department says 23 Americans were on the flight manifest, but that has not been confirmed. Called this an act of sheer criminality and terrorism, and there should and there will be hell to pay. Roll it, Brittany.
I am not concluding yet. We don't want to make the mistake of reaching conclusions. We'll know within the next few hours. But if it is a result of either separatist or Russian actions mistakenly believing that this was a Ukrainian warplane, I think there's going to be hell to pay, and there should be.
I'm with him. I'm not saying send in U.S. troops, God forbid. I don't think it's worth World War III with Russia. But I think it's now time for the United States, along with Canada and the European Union, to impose devastating sanctions on Russia. And together with the Europeans, we should arm the Ukrainian government and the military to the teeth, smash these rebels, and teach Putin a lesson. There are consequences to behaving like a thug and a barbarian. You want to shoot down people from the sky? I'm sorry. Those days are over. 617-266-6868 is the number. Steve, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi, Steve.
Yeah, this is really Bruce. I'm sorry I messed up earlier.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm very, very disturbed over this. I mean, I was going to tell you that I had hummus for breakfast, and I want the United States to step up and act like the Israelis are doing and have some backbone. But getting back, let that go. As far as this was a barbaric act. Very, 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 very bad. And I'm telling you something right now, Jeff. I am with you all the way on this. Obama's too busy playing golf, and I'm very upset the fact that he hasn't even lifted a finger to call anybody that even gives a goddamn.
Thank you, Bruce. Bruce, you just did it again. You got to stop swearing, Bruce. All right, but look, this is what happens when you draw red lines and you don't enforce them. I've been saying this now for years. Nobody respects you. So Putin thinks he can do whatever he wants. What's Obama going to do now? No, this time, we really, really, really mean it. This time I'm really, really, really going to punish you. No, this time I'm really there's going to be really strong sanctions this time. Putin's laughing at him. And so they become so arrogant, so drunk with power, they think, big deal, shoot a plane out of the sky. If it's a Ukrainian plane, great. If not, what is the West going to do? What is America going to do? What is the dear leader going to do? You know what the answer is? Niet. 617-266-6868. Nothing. Nada. Zilch. Stuart, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Good morning. Here's the thing. Separatists don't know how to build weapons. I think the easy thing to figure out here is going to be whose weapon it was that was used to shoot the plane down. If the Ukrainians fighting the separatists made a mistake and used one of their weapons and shot the plane down, it'll be pretty easy to tell. Once they get their hands on that plane, they'll be able to see what weapon it was that was used. If it's a Russian weapon, they'll know right away, and then Putin won't be able to deny it.
Thank you for that call, Stuart. Steve, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go.
Yeah, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Steve.
Normally do agree with you. I'm a Dutch national. I agree on many of the things that you bring up, but I'm surprised at the anti-Putin, anti-Russian stand that you take without any proof. Now, that said, let that go. I think you have to understand something. There are a number of things involved here. Why was the plane flying at 33,000 feet? When up to 32,000 feet, you were not supposed to fly. That is 1,000 feet higher than the allowable or the closed airspace? That's the number one question. Number two question is, why was the plane diverted by about 50 to 60 miles instead of crossing the ocean? It went straight over Donetsk. That is another question that has not been answered. Now, part of the answer is, why was Malaysian Airlines allowing this flight over the Ukraine when all other airlines or many of the European airlines were not allowing their flights to take place, nor was the American government allowing American Airlines to fly over the Ukraine?
You make that last point is a very, very good point.
No, Jeff, the point is this. This is America's Lusitania. This is the Dutch Lusitania. This is the start of something very, very big, and you and a lot of other people are being snookered into it by the way of your comments. Now, I have a lot of respect for everything you say, but you're wrong on this particular issue. The black boxes, they will not be turned over to any committee other than the Russians, and the reason for it is the rebels have been screwed and they don't trust anybody. How would you like to be shot at? With tanks, with heavy aircraft? That was a war on the eastern Ukrainians. And irrespective who shot this thing down, it wasn't the Russians. They have nothing to gain. Quite to the contrary. Who have everything to gain are the Ukrainians and maybe the rebels. And I think that's the way to put it. And I'm sorry that a lot of people lost their lives. But these are the things to be expected when you have a John McCain declaring war on Putin, when you have Joe Biden saying it's not an accident, everybody's drawing conclusions, the Ukrainians all of a sudden have a lot of evidence, which they haven't put forward. You can fake a lot of Twitter notices. You know that. The electronic media are being controlled, not by the Ukrainians, but are being controlled by two parties, Russia and the United States. So before you draw conclusions, I really would appreciate it, and you're doing a service to your listeners who respect you and who like your stance, to be a little bit more objective. And there is another reason, by the way. Why is it that this is the second time that it is hitting Malaysian Airlines? One of the other reasons is Malaysian Airlines is in deep trouble financially. Okay? That's a big reason. There's a lot of investors there that would like to see something happen. Number two, why does it happen from Amsterdam? Well, Amsterdam is involved. The Netherlands is involved. It is a U.S. vassal, NATO vassal state, and all part of the crap in the world goes through the Netherlands. It is about time that, your listeners understand that too.
Steve, you made a lot of points, and thank you for that call. No, look, I'll be honest with you. To me, I think it's pretty clear that Putin has been backing the separatists in Ukraine. He's fomenting a civil war. I think they mistakenly shot it down, thinking it was a Ukrainian cargo plane. I think the evidence is pretty good on that, Steve. What I think the bigger question is, you're right, many European airlines don't go over Ukraine. The American airlines don't go over Ukraine, our airplanes, because they know there's a civil war there. And I think Malaysian Airlines deliberately didn't reroute their route to Kuala Lumpur to save money. Because you're right, Malaysian Airlines is financially strapped. It takes a bit more money to go a little farther out, to take a bit of a longer route, and I think they tried to deliberately cut corners. They stayed on the original route, thinking they can get away with it. Well, you're flying at 30,000, whatever it is, 32, 33,000 feet, you think you're safe. When you're over a civil war zone, with surface-to-air missiles, you're not safe, as they learned. 617-266-6868. Coming up next, you are not going to believe, trust me when I tell you this, you are not going to believe the dear leader's incredibly callous response. I've got that audio next. Let's take it to Angela in the newsroom. 7:39 here on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, the voice of the resistance. 617-266-6868. You can also text us at 680-680. Just a quick update to everybody out there. Next Saturday, July 26th at 11 o'clock at the steps of the State House, Kuhner Country is going to be holding a major rally to stop the illegal invasion of our state, of illegal immigrants, being sponsored by Diablo Patrick. Please, I need all of you to show up, Kuhner Country. I mean, this one is unbelievable. Even this one has liberals shaking their heads in the media and all across the country. Now, I want you to think about this, okay? Objectively. Just stand back. You're getting ready to go to work. You're in your car. You're listening to this show wherever it is, just relaxing, whatever, by the pool, sipping a Diet Coke or whatever it is. Let me ask you this question. You're the President of the United States. You are now told, before you were supposed to give a speech about transportation policy in Delaware, that a plane carrying nearly 300 people on board has now been shot down. Everybody on board is confirmed dead. There is wreckage, debris, body parts all over. There are victims from the Netherlands, from Britain, from Australia, from Malaysia, from Germany, from Canada, from Belgium, and according to the State Department, your own State Department, they fear 23 dead Americans. There's dead children. There's dead nuns. There's dead doctors. What would you do? What would you do? Would you cancel the speech? Would you, before you deliver the speech, be solemn? Would you try to at least address the issue? Because potentially those are 23 Americans that are dead, as well as on top of the 298. Or would you start cracking jokes? I swear to you. Would you continue to read from your prepared text, sitting around which is a speech literally riddled with jokes and one-liners, a jokey speech? Could you go in front of a group of people, knowing that 298 people are dead, just shot down? It's an international news story. It's leading the news everywhere around the world. Maybe 23 American dead. 23 of your own citizens. Could you stand there and point at the crowd and go, hey, ho, look at Joe Biden. He's the ugliest Biden in the room. Hey, ho. Could you do that? Okay. Yesterday, in Wilmington, Delaware, the President of the United States was informed just before he was about to deliver his speech that Malaysian Airlines 17 had been shot down. They thought at the time 295 people were dead. It's now 298. And according to the State Department, it was feared that as many as 23 U.S. citizens had perished. Obama, for 40 seconds, walked in front of a crowd, looked at him, and said this: it looks like it may be a terrible tragedy. And then talked about, well, we don't have the evidence yet, but we're getting more information. But then, after 40 seconds, it's wonderful to be back in Delaware. Did he offer condolences? Niet. Did he give any solemn words? Niet. Did he potentially condemn the Russians and the pro-Russian separatists for potentially maybe in cold blood killing Americans? Niet. Instead, he went on right away. It's great to be in the state that gave us Joe Biden. We've got actually some better-looking Bidens with us here today. We've got Beau and his wife Hallie. They're here. Give them a big round of applause. We love them. And then he went on for another 15 minutes, joke after joke, crack after crack, one-liner after one-liner. He's a mentally ill man.
Hello, everybody. Everybody, please have a seat. Please have a seat. It is wonderful to be back in Delaware.
And then he says this.
Before I begin, obviously the world is watching reports of a downed passenger jet near the Russia-Ukraine border. And it looks like it may be a terrible tragedy. Right now we're working to determine whether there were American citizens on board. That is our first priority. And I've directed my national security team to stay in close contact with the Ukrainian government. The United States will offer any assistance we can to help determine what happened and why. And as a country, our thoughts and prayers are with all the families of the passengers wherever they call home. I want to thank Jeremy for that introduction. Give Jeremy a big round of applause.
And then from there, right away. By the way, you can see, oh my God, he's so sincere. Oh, he's so concerned. He's so worried. Oh my God, 23 Americans may be killed. I just want to give Jeremy a big round of applause. Then right away from that, it's great to be in the state that gave us Joe Biden. We've actually got some better-looking Bidens with us here today. I think I'm going to be trying out for David Letterman's job. We've got Bo and his wife, Hallie. Hey, they're here. Give them a big round of applause. We love them. And then it was joke after joke after joke. I swear to you, even the liberal press corps was like, what is wrong with this guy? Do you think it's funny when you've got nearly 300 people dead? Maybe some of your own people? And the man is a cold-blooded sociopath. Human lives mean nothing to him. Dead Americans mean nothing to him. Dead children mean nothing to him. Nothing, unless it suits his political purposes. This is me. I'm just speaking now as a red-blooded American. What? 298 people dead? What? 23 could be our own? What? This may have been done by what? Pro-Russian separatists? You think Putin was behind this? Hey, forget a little dinky transportation speech full of jokes. I want to go back to the Situation Room. I want to get the latest intelligence. Get me Vladimir. I want Vladimir on the phone get him on the phone right away. And I don't want to hear his BS that he doesn't have time to speak to me. Instead, who's uglier? Joe Biden's the ugliest guy in the family. It was so bad. Check this out. It wasn't just the dear leader. It's his whole administration. Now, check this one out. You have Obama State Department spokeswoman Jen Psaki. What a liar. Oh, on Benghazi. Oh my God, has she been lying. But let that go. So, this is what they do at the State Department, very quickly to set this up. The State Department has their spokesperson, Jen Psaki, come out every day. And they always do this kind of routine business where they cite the war in Afghanistan, if there are any casualties, whatever. Basically go through routine business, and then they take questions from the State Department reporters. I know, I used to edit one of them, who that's their beat, and they're there every day. The press corps everyone's like, oh my God, this plane was shot down. Jen Psaki is going to talk about 298 people dead. God knows, maybe an international incident with Mother Russia, maybe 23 Americans dead. She's going to be leading with this. Instead, check this out. Roll it, Brittany.
It now spans 9 miles. Large debris fields tell us one thing, that something happened in the air, and then it came to the ground. Jen Psaki, the State Department spokesperson, live.
The Afghan IEC began auditing ballots from the Afghan president.
This is Shepard Smith. Okay, it's on Fox News. Hold on. There was a computer malfunction, Brittany? Okay, sorry about that. Our news boss kind of malfunctioned. But what happened was Shepard Smith, it was Fox News. The story is now breaking. It's leading everywhere. State Department woman Jen Psaki comes out and he says, hey, let's go to to the State Department for the briefing. Everybody's thinking, obviously, she's going to come out with information, whatever she has. Were there Americans on board? How many? Were they killed? What missile? What any intelligence on the missile? Who fired the missile? What kind of a missile? Yada, yada, yada. You get it. She starts going on about ballots and the elections in Afghanistan. And she continues droning on and on and on. And look at Shep Smith's response, and look at the Fox News State Department correspondent when she's stunned and disgusted as well. Okay, we got it back, Brittany? Go, roll it, Brittany.
IEC began auditing ballots from the Afghan presidential runoff. The audit is being conducted in Kabul by the IEC under close supervision.
Well, this is
in accordance with international
just highly inappropriate, I would say. They are going through day to day. Each day the State Department has a briefing. Each day there are State Department reporters who are there. That is their beat. They are assigned to be there. And you get a long list of things going on all over the world. And then you get to ask questions. Today, a Malaysian Airlines jet has fallen from the sky over a war zone, and the State Department is beginning with routine matters. You figure it out. I can't figure that out. Whether they will certainly get to this. Jennifer Griffin, I can't believe what just happened.
That's the State Department, Shep. I'm not surprised. But
I mean, look, she's like, the woman's almost about to puke. She's like, what, are you kidding me? So, now, contrast this. I don't know if many of you are old enough to remember this. Do you remember the Korean Airlines in the early 1980s that mistakenly went over Soviet airspace? And again, from Russian soil, they blasted that thing out of the sky and everybody on board was dead? What did Reagan do? Hey, was he? Hey. Then Bush 41, George H.W. was his vice president. He's the ugliest guy in his family. His wife Barbara's so much better looking. Hey, there's George Jr. He's better looking. He came right back to the White House, went into the Situation Room, assembled the national security team, condemned Russian barbarism and Russian aggression, stood up for American interests in the world. This guy couldn't give a damn. His entire administration couldn't give a damn. So I'm here to tell you about the election results in Afghanistan. We've looked at the ballots, but what about the 23 dead Americans? Well, we don't care. If there are Muslims being killed, then we care, but otherwise we don't care. So the election results looks good for the Taliban, and we're going to negotiate with them, but we're sending pink slips to our soldiers, and they're being fired. I'm Jen Psaki. Let me lie about Benghazi again. 617-266-6868. What do you make of the dear leader's response? Is that the telltale sign of a sociopath? Agree? Disagree? Comrade John, how are you, comrade?
Muy bien. Sí, jefe. Jeff, world wars have started over less than this. And this is what he comes out with. Mr. President, a plane's been shot down over the Ukraine and there's Americans on board. What are you going to do? I'm going to Disney World. He's losing it. I told you a while ago. He's going to lose it. And he's going to snap really soon.
Thank you.
You know, Jeff, for the first time in my life, I'm not proud to be an American.
I mean, to me, I was going to say thank you, Michelle Obama. You know, to me, I never like to compare America with our government. You can despise your government and love your people and your country. I hate my government, but I love America. 617-266-6868, 753 on the great WRKO. All of your calls next.
Hello, everybody. Everybody, please have a seat. Please have a seat. It is wonderful to be back in Delaware.
757 here on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Brittany, who do you want to go to first? Kevin, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go.
Thanks, Jeff. Jeff, I have to believe in Comrade Juan. My own sentiment for the United States has fallen because the average American, they're clueless, they're just like this one, just craps, callous. He does not care. I remember when Ronald Reagan would come days where he had things interrupted. 1983, Russian Korean Airlines, South Korea. He spoke for 40 minutes, whether it be the Challenger disaster,
the man, and it resonated. The whole administration is so elementary. I'm so glad you picked that up. They're all laughing in every capacity, in every branch, time and time again. And this is why I look upon, you've heard me say it 1,000 times, Harvard. I swear to God, only foreigners think this university's distinguished. It goes by a motto, Veritas, truth. Jeff, it is so sad, and caller Steve hit it right on the mark. John McShane just wants to put us in a place of war. We need to be prudent about things. Absolutely. In every which way. It's so sad.
Thank you for that call, Kevin. Well said. Frank, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go.
Jeff, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Frank?
You know, we got this community organizer, this clown in the White House, who personally I don't think could run a dump. There was a time the United States was considered to be a melting pot. But if you take a good look at it now, we're starting to look more and more like a cesspool. Now, I live up here in the Merrimack Valley. When I was in the CVS pharmacy there, they said they have those walk-in clinics, and we're starting to test up here now for tuberculosis. I think that says an awful lot.
That's the future. And actually, speaking of that, my friends, coming up next, Governor Deval Patrick, Diablo Patrick, Mini-Me, now gives more details on his plan to house and shelter illegal immigrants from Central America right here in Massachusetts. My friends, trust me, you don't want to miss this. It affects all of us. Don't touch that dial. 617-266-6868 is the number. 8 o'clock here on the great WRKO. Let's take it to Angela Anderson in the newsroom.
News at the top and bottom, talk in between.
Executing assigned host duties flawlessly because I can't do wrong.
This is AM 680 WRKO, Boston.